Hi, I'm Margaret Fox, editor here at Stratfor. And joining me today is Fred Burton, our Vice President of Intelligence, to talk a little bit about the Lockerbie bombing of 1988, a case that the FBI is actually trying to reopen. So, Fred, you were working for the State Department at the time of this event, right?
Yes.
A plane went down, Pan Am Flight 103, went down over Scotland. Over 200 people were killed, correct?
Correct.
But the person responsible, or at least the one person who went to jail, was actually released within a couple years of his lifelong sentence, right?
That's correct.
What was the reaction in the intelligence community to that news?
Well, it was simply horrible. I mean, remember, this is a case that's personal, and it was personal to us at the time period because we lost two special agents aboard that crash. They were coming home for the holidays on December 21st. So from our perspective, that first 24 hours after the plane crash was simply a blur as we were making notifications to families and trying to look at the case as to exactly what happened.
Yeah, and you talk about that a little bit in your recent piece for Stratfor, A Quest for Closure. Initially, in the aftermath, who did people think was responsible for the bombing? Were there claims of responsibility, or did we think it was the Libyans, as we think today?
We first started thinking that this could have been Hezbollah because they had carried out not only the horrific car bombings in Beirut and Kuwait, but they were the master of the aircraft hijacking. So Hezbollah was the top of our list. Then we looked at the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, and then we focused in on Libya.
Why Hezbollah? You mentioned that they had done other aircraft hijackings. Was there one that had happened recently?
From my end, to me, the loose end was the United States ambassador to Lebanon had initially been manifested to fly on that flight. And that was a regular route between London and the United States that many of us, to include myself, had flown on. So the fact that the U.S. ambassador had been manifested on the flight
really made it a target.
Potentially made it a target. And also, there was so many government employees that routinely used that route. We thought that it would have been a perfect target set for an organization like Hezbollah that had been so successful not only with sophisticated bombs, but the impact of all the Americans coming out of Lebanon.
And yet the consensus today is that it was not Hezbollah, correct? Most people think that it was actually Libya that was behind the attack. How did we come to that conclusion?
Forensics. The FBI did a wonderful job piecing the blast back together. And my old friend Jim Casey, who is a former State Department special agent, actually left us and went to work for the FBI. But while he was a State Department agent, he recovered a very sophisticated timer a few years before the plane went down in Lomé, Togo, during a Libyan-backed coup. And he brought that timer back to Washington just to put it into the database, and it ultimately was linked back to the timer that was used in Lockerbie, which was kind of the smoking gun that it was a Libyan nexus.
Got it. So you kind of saw that it was the same technology, basically.
Correct.
That Libya was using. Okay.
And also, I think it's important to bring up, Margaret, that in this time frame, Gaddafi was the master terrorist. We had previous attacks in 1986 on diplomats in Khartoum and Sana'a that I had worked on, and these were all Libyan acts of terror. Gaddafi had bombed the Label disco, and he was providing a lot of material support, training, logistics help for the rogues gallery of all the terrorists back in the day.
In your mind, what are the biggest lingering questions about the whole affair?
And there were so many Americans killed on that, to include our agents, that I do want to see justice served. So these two new suspects that have been recently surfaced in the news media over the past 24 hours, one being a very senior Libyan intelligence official. There's no doubt in my mind that this was a Libyan state-sponsored act of terror. And I think that we do need to get our hands on these two suspects. We do need to bring them back to face federal trial here. and they should spend the rest of their natural life at the Supermax in Colorado.
Well, with the FBI reopening the case, there's definitely hope that justice will be served. And thank you for sharing your thoughts on the topic. I know it's a personal one.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. Please do check out Fred's article on stratfor.com.